All right, good morning to everyone, and thank you all for being here. We're now in day 6 in our response to the flooding in the region. As many of you know, yesterday there was some additional snow that fell, and this caused some difficulty in terms of releasing and getting supplies down to some of the affected areas. I want to caution people that we're still in a condition where we have frigid temperatures, and when we have a lot of cold, that can cause complications. I'm going to talk in a little bit about some of that when the power comes on, and sometimes that goes on in the homes. That can actually, as water flows, sometimes pipes can end up bursting, and so we're getting some additional reports on that front. I want to emphasize that this continues to be an aggressive effort by folks at the local level and the state level to coordinate all of the activities. I can't emphasize enough how good people have been on the ground, the local counties that we've been communicating with, the amount of volunteer assistance that's been pouring in. It makes you very proud to be a West Virginian. And so those efforts are going to continue over the course of the upcoming days. But this is truly Team West Virginia at its finest. As you all know, I've requested an emergency declaration from President Trump. We've been talking with FEMA, so I am hopeful that we will be receiving some feedback fairly soon. We know that some of the highest priority counties, we feel very good that they should meet the trigger to qualify for FEMA assistance. A couple statistics for you. As of now, we've been able to connect with locals and others, and we believe that there are over 135 water rescues that have occurred since the beginning of this. Once again, thanks to all the first responders. So much of that work's happened on the ground, and then with the assistance of DNR and the National Guard, I think it's once again been a team effort. One of the challenges that we had is that as the water began to recede, another winter storm blew in. So our focus has been, of course, restoring power and water, but the snow makes that difficult. I will give you some piece of good news as well, though. You remember at the beginning we were talking about over 64,000 people who lacked power. As of this morning, it appears there are only 138 accounts still without power. That's obviously major movement. And I want to thank the linemen and the folks from AEP and others who really have worked diligently to try to make this happen. As I've mentioned to you in the past, this is a process that, sequential in nature. When the flood occurs and there's water in front of folks, it's very, very difficult to get through to restore the power. So first the water has to recede, then you have to have people going in and clearing the debris, and then you try to repair the road, you go through. But these linemen have really been outstanding, and I want to make sure people know that. And if you see someone in your community, thank that person for all they're doing, and thank all the volunteers and folks in the emergency management systems. We know that vehicles and equipment from our Department of Transportation, they're continuing to clear debris and snow to ensure that more linemen can get through to finish that off. But the fact that we're 138 accounts, I thought is a positive development. We do have some challenges in terms of water service disruptions. Right now, there are over 10,000 people having disruption in the water delivery, and we know that a significant number of those disruptions are in the Logan Northern Regional PSD district. We know that engineers were on the scene yesterday and will be again today to do everything that they can to fix this situation as quickly as possible. To that end, there have been significant amounts of water that have been delivered to all the affected areas. We're looking at over 200,000 bottles of water that have gone down, and I'm hearing that the supplies down there have been adequate to address the needs, but I know that there are also a lot of volunteers that are still helping, trying to provide their brothers and sisters with the assistance that they need, and we've been also working to get additional pallets down there, but this is another positive development. Now, from a big picture perspective, we all know that we had a truly historic weather event last weekend. Parts of McDowell County received 4.72 inches of rain in less than 48 hours. I don't need to describe to people here the topography of West Virginia and what happens when all the water comes in, and especially after a lot of snow and rain, how wet the ground is, that there's really no place for the water to go but to go up. That's part of what causes the problem. It was much worse than the forecast, and to put all this in perspective, we had some stats that the highest rainfall that was ever recorded in Bluestone Lake in southern West Virginia in the month of February was 7 inches of rain. Through the first 18 days of the month, we exceeded that number. So this is a very significant and obviously part of the reason why there have been real problems. We know that the Tug Fork River crested at 49 feet. We believe this is the second highest recorded in history. Right now, we know that cold temperatures, they remain, and a winter storm warning remains up until 1 p.m. this afternoon for much of the southern region. Now, since the beginning, our state agencies have acted in a unified manner, but we're also coordinating with local officials and volunteer organizations as well. The American Red Cross is actively assisting West Virginians with shelters for those without power or those who are on unlivable properties. We believe that there are currently 80 residents in shelters, 50 at the Williamson Memorial Fieldhouse, and another 30 at the Reclamation Church in Welch. I mentioned that DOT is out clearing debris. We know that still there are a few counties that are experiencing some road slides and washouts. Right now, that's in Cabell, Lincoln, Logan, Mingo, and Wayne. We also know that there are a couple counties that have some high water and that there are DOT crews that are on site to pump the water and clear the roads. We know that DOH has seen significant decrease in the road closures due to high water. We now have about 45 complete closures. That's down, but there are 3 major routes. With respect to the Guard, I want to commend General Seward for you and for your team. People have been working very, very diligently to assist those in need on the local level, and I think that the relationship between the local officials and the state officials, including the Guard, has been excellent. The Guard has had logistical support teams on site, and we know we have 5 liaison officer teams with vehicles to assess, to assist, and coordinate emergency support operations for those in the affected areas. With respect to Department of Education, we know that there are 2 school districts that we believe are still closed as a result of the recent flooding in the areas. Those are in McDowell and Mingo counties. McDowell County schools are closed until further notice, and we know that several schools across the region have been open to allow volunteers and employees to cook warm meals for those who are working and recovering from the flooding. There's also work that's being done by the DEP. They've completed 64 mining and reclamation inspections and 9 oil and gas inspections. They've tried to provide expedited approvals for 10 debris staging areas in McDowell County. And the DEP is obviously coordinating closely with the Department of Health broadly, but also in Logan County, where we reported that blowout in terms of the water and the fluid coming from the mine. State police, they continue to be active as well. They've been operating drones in some of the affected areas to try to better locate areas of assistance and to help to direct resources. We know that generators are running in McDowell and Wayne County, and we know that state police have deployed 24 catch radios to assist the first responders. So we're going to keep doing everything we can. One thing that I wanted to mention, and I should have probably mentioned at this beginning, one of the best things that has been happening is that people responding and going online and reporting what's happening in their local area. That's actually critical because for West Virginia to qualify for some of the federal assistance, it's important that there's adequate information that's submitted to them. And so when citizens talk about the impact that the flood has on their homes, when they provide pictures, it makes a big difference. So we have been emphasizing that there is an assistance survey for citizens to fill out. We would ask everyone watching, and we would ask the media if you can help us get that information out to a lot of these people. It will make a difference for people on the ground. That website, once again, is emd.wv.gov/disaster survey. Let me repeat that again. emd.wv.gov/disaster survey. That's helpful. Keep those coming in. We know that that's making a difference. And I think that going forward, I'm going to talk about some other ways that we can improve communications from the state to the locals, because that's certainly critically important. I want to thank the Department of Agriculture and Kent Leonhardt for his good work. They're delivering 3 additional truckloads of food today to some of the affected counties. And then moving on to DNR, we know that a lot of our natural resource officers, they've been still working on the ground, helping to navigate some of the individuals from remote locations to get the help they need as well. We know that officers are continuing to go into some of the hollers, probing areas to make sure that there aren't people that are left behind. And we know that if it's needed, DNR swift water teams are available to help. But we just need that information. That's why I emphasize the survey and the communication, so we're on top of what's happening on the ground. This is still an unsafe situation in some of the affected counties. We ask you, if you see a flooded area, do not drive. Do not go through. That's not safe to do. Turn around. Avoid the harm. We know that West Virginia and the local areas continue to deploy resources at their disposal to try to help citizens that are in need, and that many people in West Virginia have stepped up from a volunteer perspective, and I think that they're making a huge difference. Please reach out to your local emergency department and your manager to better identify some of the needs in your area, but we're very grateful for all the incredible volunteer efforts. You know, I remember vividly our 2016 floods, and I watched the efforts that so many citizens in West Virginia made to help out their brothers and sisters in Clendenin, in Nicholas County, down in Greenbrier County. They made a huge difference. They're also making a big difference here, especially to the counties that have been hit hardest by the flood. We're going to continue to be there every step of the way. And certainly, if you have questions, let us know. We want to make sure that we're helping these southern counties recover. And I want to thank everyone for coming in today. Today, we only have time for just a couple questions, as General Seward is also heading upstairs, but I'm happy to take a few. Katie.
Talking about the emergency declaration,
Yeah.
do we have any information on what the holdup on it is? We know Kentucky got theirs Monday or Tuesday. Any information or context that you can give about your conversations?
I think Kentucky had a different type of application, which also had some impact. But we're in contact with Homeland Security and with FEMA, and I'm hopeful I'm going to hear more, whether it's today or tomorrow. But these are processes that you go through to try to make sure that you're identifying the help. I think right now what FEMA traditionally tries to do is they look at the submissions, and then they have various criteria for determining whether a particular area is eligible, whether through the public process in terms of the roads and some of the areas, the infrastructure that may need help, but also help that may go to individual citizens, right? If their homes are ruined or they're having specific problems. So we're obviously reaching out, and I'm hopeful today, tomorrow, that we may learn a little bit more. And when I learn more, I'm going to report it back to you.
And is FEMA on the ground? Like, do we have people from FEMA here?
We've been coordinating with FEMA. They've actually been in our emergency management room and discussing. So there have been ongoing discussions since we convened that emergency management team a number of days ago. Yes.
Yeah, Mason Kinsey with WVU. You mentioned at the top you were organizing a FEMA effort with President Trump, but earlier this month you spoke about potentially shutting the organization down. Could you speak a little bit more about that and what the shutting down of that organization could do?
Listen, I'm not going to get into the broader politics that people want me to. Right now, my focus is on helping as many West Virginians in need, and that's what we're doing. And so I think that the FEMA people have been very collaborative, and they're helping us as we're going through to identify the specific needs in various counties. So I'm not going to get caught up on that. I'm laser focused on this issue, the people that are affected by the flood. And right now, FEMA and the feds, we're having good communications, and I'm going to leave it at that. There's going to be a lot of discussion more broadly on the long term, whether it's in West Virginia or nationally, about what to do with various structures and how things can be done better. But right now, the focus is going to be on the people that are hurting in southern West Virginia.
But how many counties?
Go ahead.
About how many counties have you put into FEMA saying we need help?
So we submitted the application for 13 counties. As I've mentioned, we think the two hardest hit counties are Mingo and McDowell, but we also know that there have been some challenges in Logan and in other places too. So I am very hopeful, especially when you look at the information, the damage with Mingo and McDowell, but we also know that other counties have suffered harm. That's part of the process of communicating with them to make sure that we can hit the required triggers to make sure that we're getting the help that we need. Jordan?
Are we aware of anyone else who might be missing, or has everyone been accounted for?
Thank you for asking that. As you may have seen, we have of the 3 individuals reported dead, including, heartbreakingly a young infant. That's just, our hearts go out to the family and to the community. That's one of the more difficult, the most difficult part about what's been going on. We also have reported that firefighter, and that's still under investigation. So 4 individuals within the span of a few days, but I'm not aware right now that there are any other individuals who are missing. If we learn about any, especially as people go into the hollers and they're knocking on doors, trying to identify people who may be in need, we'll be sure to let you know. We have time for one more question.
Hi, Governor Morrisey. James Daly, WVU News. I was just wondering, obviously West Virginia is no stranger to flooding and other natural disasters. Is there anything that you and your administration have learned that could help maybe better prepare for a future event like this that you've learned in this response?
I will say this, the first thing that we've learned is what almost everyone knows about West Virginia, that the citizens of our state have hearts of gold, and they reach out and they help their brothers and sisters in need. When I was down in Welch the other day, I saw that folks from Jackson County had come down on the ground and they were just chipping in, and everyone was working as a team. That matters a lot. And that community fabric, the love that people have for each other and the willingness to put themselves in harm's way, that defines West Virginia. And that's an incredible thing. And when we're thinking about disaster relief, we have to acknowledge, the resiliency of some of these communities in McDowell, in Mingo, and across southern West Virginia. That makes a big difference. So I think that's important to constantly state. Look, there are going to be other things that we're going to have to grapple with along the way. We know that there have been efforts on flood planning for many, many years, and there wasn't activity consistent with what we thought might or should happen. But those are going to be broader discussions in terms of how to address long-term issues and the importance of various types of investments, where to do things, how much in resources do we have. I think, remember, West Virginia, it's an amazing place, but it is particularly vulnerable to flooding because of our topography, and we have to be cognizant of that, especially in some of these southern counties where you have these valleys where the water comes in and it goes up very, very high. And so those are all discussions that folks have to have into the future with the legislature. But right now, our focus is getting through the short term and helping the people that are in need. Guys, we have to get going because the general and I have to head out. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Please fill out that survey and keep the help coming for your friends and families in need. It's greatly appreciated. We're going to stick together. We are Team West Virginia, and we're going to make our way through this, and we're going to be better at the other end. Thank you, and God bless.